She'll never understand a single line of this.
Harvard professor Jeffrey Ashford said, pointing his marker straight at the black janitor in the back of the auditorium. He looked her up and down, slowly, deliberately, then smirked at the crowd.
In fact, I'll make a bet. Anyone in this hall who solves my echolation in 2 minutes, I marry them on the spot.
He laughed and threw the marker at her feet.
Even her! Pick that up while you're down there.
3 students near the front did not. A reporter in row 3 set down her pen, and on the panel, Eleanor Vance, visiting from Princeton, narrowed her eyes without a word. The black woman bent down. She picked up the marker. She didn't look at Ashford. She looked at the equation glowing on the screen. And she went very still. Rewind 90 minutes. It's 4 in the morning at the Harvard Science Center, and the only person awake on the 3rd floor is Whitney Brooks. She's 30 years old. She's been a janitor here for 10 years, and she's standing in front of a small mirror in the supply closet, pulling her hair back into the same plain bun she's worn every shift since she was 20. She doesn't look in the mirror long. She hasn't looked in the mirror long for a decade. Her uniform is 2 sizes too big. Her glasses are old, with white tape on the left hinge where the screw fell out 2 years ago. Her hands are dry and cracked from the cleaning chemicals. And tucked under the bottom shelf of her cart is a battered calculus textbook held together with duct tape, a thermos of black coffee, and a folder labeled in pencil, Inventory Q3. Inside that folder are 92 pages of mathematics nobody at Harvard knows she's written. Whitney pulls out her phone and calls her brother. "Teddy, you up?" "Barely," he mumbles. He's 22, a senior at Northeastern, the boy she raised after their mother died, the boy she gave up MIT for. "Eat breakfast, real breakfast. I'm checking your bank app later." "Yes, ma'am." "Love you." She hangs up. She doesn't tell him about the colloquium today. She doesn't tell him about the equation on the screen in Hall G. She hasn't told him a single thing about her own mind in 10 years. She zips her jacket. She puts her phone in her back pocket. She rolls her cart into the corridor and starts her rounds. 3rd floor first. Always 3rd floor first. The math department offices are on the 3rd floor, and the trash cans on the 3rd floor are where she finds the things she takes home. A discarded preprint, a napkin with a half-finished derivation, a whiteboard photograph somebody printed out and threw away. She does not steal. She empties the bins. What ends up in her cart ends up in her cart. 6 months ago, the napkin was in Jeffrey Ashford's bin. The handwriting was his. The derivation was line 3 of the Ashford boundary, and the mistake, the exact mistake she would point out today, was already there, halfway erased and rewritten in the same wrong way. He had seen it. He had crossed it out. He had decided not to see it. She had taken the napkin home that night. She had sat at her kitchen table for 4 hours, and by morning, she had the proof. She has carried it with her, folded into the back of her textbook, every shift since. Now meet Jeffrey Ashford, 35 years old, Pemberton Chair of Pure Mathematics, the youngest tenured professor in the department's history, a man who walks down the hallway at 8 in the morning and does not see the black woman mopping the floor in front of him, actually walks through the space where she's standing as if she's furniture. Whitney has worked here for 10 years. Ashford has never once asked her name. He's also single. He'll tell you it's because he's too busy. His 3 exes will tell you something else. His grad student, Henrik Sandberg, has heard the joke whispered by faculty in the elevator. The man who married his own ego. Henrik never laughs at it, because Henrik is afraid of him. Ashford's whole career is built on one problem. He calls it the Ashford boundary. It's an integral identity from his doctoral thesis, published 9 years ago when he was 26. He's spent every year since trying to prove it cannot be solved in closed form. He's built textbooks around it. He's built lectures around it. He's built his entire reputation on the idea that the problem cannot be beaten. If somebody beat it, his career would lose its center. Today is Friday. The weekly colloquium starts at 9. The room is Hall G, the largest in the Science Center, and it'll be live-streamed on the department's YouTube channel. About 180 people will be there in person. A reporter from the Boston Globe, Audrey Whitfield, has flown up from New York to cover the talk. Ashford has hinted in emails that he's about to publicly settle the conjecture. And Eleanor Vance, the visiting Princeton mathematician, has agreed to chair the panel. Whitney finishes her morning rounds. At 8:45, she pushes her cart toward the back entrance of Hall G. The screen at the front is already lit. The first slide is up. The Ashford boundary is glowing in white chalk on a black background, 12 feet tall. Whitney stops her cart. She looks at the slide, and something on her face changes. What did she see on that screen, and how long had she been waiting for it? The colloquium opens. Ashford takes the stage to polite applause. He paces the way he always does, hands behind his back, like a man who's already decided how this morning is going to go. "Good morning, ladies and gentlemen," he says. "Today, I want to talk about a problem that has, for 9 years, defeated every serious attempt at a closed-form solution. My problem. The Ashford boundary." He clicks the slide. The integral expands across the 12-foot screen. "This integral," he says, "is what we politely call intractable. I have spent 9 years, 2 textbooks, and the better part of my soul demonstrating why. Today, I'm going to walk you through the latest version of that demonstration." He smiles. "And just for fun, because I'm in a generous mood, I'm going to make a small wager." The room shifts. People sit up. Ashford pulls out a stopwatch from his pocket and holds it up like a prize. "If anyone in this hall," he says, "can produce a closed-form solution to this integral within 2 minutes, I will resign my chair. I will hand them my office keys, and, because I am, above all, a man of my word," he laughs, "I will marry them on the spot." The room laughs. He's enjoying himself. "Now, before any of you graduate students get excited," he says, "I don't mean you. The Putnam winners can sit down. I mean anyone. The undergrad auditing in the back. The visiting scholar who flew in last night." His eyes drift to the back of the hall. "The maintenance staff." He gestures, smiling, toward Whitney, who has just rolled her cart into the side aisle. "Yes," Ashford says, "even the woman with the mop, and the man of my word. 2 minutes, marriage proposal included." He clicks the stopwatch theatrically. "Don't all rush at once." The laughter sharpens. 3 people don't laugh. Audrey Whitfield in row 3 sets her pen down a second time. Henrik in the front row mutters, "Oh no," under his breath. Eleanor Vance does not move a muscle on the panel. Whitney does not look up. She wipes the marker on her sleeve. She finishes the row of tiles she was working on. She straightens up. She walks down the side aisle, slowly. The camera operator on the live stream, on instinct, swings to follow her. She stops next to Eleanor Vance at the panel table. She speaks low, just for Eleanor. "Professor Vance, may I borrow the floor for the 2 minutes he's offering?" Eleanor looks at her. A long look. Their eyes lock for almost 3 seconds. Something passes between them that no one else in the room sees. Then Eleanor nods once. "By all means, Ms. Brooks. Ms. Brooks." Phones come up across the audience. Someone in the back stands up to record. Ashford turns around at the sound and sees Whitney walking toward the stage. He laughs out loud. "Oh, this is fantastic. By all means. By all means. 2 minutes. Starting." He clicks the stopwatch with a flourish. "Now." Whitney walks past him. She does not take the marker he holds out. She walks to the tray and picks up a fresh one. She turns to face the board. Behind her, Ashford is grinning at the audience and shaking his head. In front of her, his life's work is glowing on a 12-foot screen. What was she about to do that nobody in that room could see coming? Whitney does not start solving. She studies the board. For 15 full seconds, she does not move. She just stands there, marker in hand, head slightly tilted, reading the equation top to bottom. Behind her, the auditorium grows quiet. Ashford keeps his smile going, but you can see it start to thin at the edges. 12 seconds. 20 seconds. The stopwatch ticks past 1:40. Then Whitney lifts the marker. She does not write at the bottom of the board. She does not write near the integral itself. She circles a single line near the top. Line 3. She turns to the room. "Professor Ashford," she says. Her voice is steady, low, no shake in it. "On line 3, you've assumed your function is continuous at the origin. It isn't. There's a removable discontinuity, but only after you redefine the limit from below." The room goes silent. Not polite silent. The kind of silent where everyone is suddenly listening with their whole body. Henrik Sandberg, in the front row, slowly looks down at his notes. He looks at the screen. He looks at his notes again. His face goes white. Eleanor Vance leans forward in her chair. Audrey Whitfield in row 3 picks her pen back up. Ashford's smile is fixed now. He laughs once, sharply. That's a notational convention, Ms. Brooks. It's standard in the field. It's a load-bearing assumption, Professor. If line 3 is wrong, every line after it inherits the error. Even if, and I'm saying if, that were true, spotting an error is not a solution. The bet was for a closed form, not a critique. He glances at the stopwatch. And the clock is running, by the way. Whitney does not turn around. She keeps her eyes on the board. "I know." She writes a small correction next to his line 3. She doesn't erase his work. She writes hers in the same handwriting size, in the same space, like a doctor writing a second opinion next to a first one. "Here is what you missed. Here is the fix." In the front row, a graduate student whispers audibly, "Oh my God." That whisper carries. 3 people in the row behind him turn their heads. Phones come up higher. The live stream comment counter visible on the back wall monitor ticks from 80 viewers to 400, then to 1,200. Audrey Whitfield writes a single sentence in her notebook. She underlines it twice. The sentence reads, "She just corrected him in front of the world." In the back of the hall, the young black undergraduate has stepped away from the wall. She's moving slowly toward the front, like a person walking toward a thing she's been waiting her whole life to see and is afraid will disappear if she walks too fast. A graduate student in the second row notices her. He scoots over and pats the empty seat beside him. She sits down. She doesn't take her eyes off Whitney. In the engineering building across campus, 2 professors who'd planned to skip the colloquium have pulled up the live stream on a laptop. One of them mutes a phone call mid-sentence. The other says, Wait, who is that woman?" Across the country, a math department chair at Stanford gets a text from her postdoc that says only, "Open YouTube, now." The live stream comment counter ticks past 2,000, then 3. The chat is moving so fast, nobody can read it. One comment, in all capital letters, freezes on the screen for a full second before scrolling. "She is not a janitor. She is not a janitor. She is not a janitor." Ashford recovers. He's a man who's recovered from worse, professionally. He turns to the audience and spreads his hands. "Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to point out for the record that we have just been treated to," he searches for the word, "a creative observation. Whether it stands up to peer review is another matter entirely. But please, by all means, I'm sorry, what was your name again?" Whitney does not answer. She is studying the board. "Ms. Brooks, was it? Ms. Brooks here has 1 minute and 48 seconds remaining to convert her creative observation into an actual solution. Otherwise, this becomes simply the most entertaining anecdote of my year. A few people laugh nervously. Most don't. Whitney lifts the marker again. She turns slightly so the camera can see her face. She is not nervous. She is not angry. Her expression is the expression of a person who has been waiting a very, very long time to be in this exact place. Professor Ashford, she says, I want to be clear about something. I'm not going to claim what I'm about to do is original. The substitution I'm going to use was first sketched in a Russian paper in 1962. The contour deformation I'll apply is in any complex analysis textbook. The residue calculation is freshman. None of this is hard. She finally turns to look at him. What's hard, she says, is being willing to look at line 3. The room exhales. It actually exhales. You can hear it. Eleanor Vance on the panel has not stopped staring at the board. She is doing the math herself. Her lips are moving. Henrik Sandberg has set his pen down on his notebook because his hand is shaking too hard to write. Ashford's smile has now flattened completely. It's still on his face, but it's not really there. Solve it, he says. His voice has lost something. The cheerful bully tone is gone. What's left underneath sounds smaller. Solve it, Miss Brooks. Don't give me a lecture on humility. Solve the integral. Whitney nods. Once. She turns back to the board. The stopwatch reads 1:32. She lifts the marker. What kind of mind sees a 30-year-old professor's life work in 15 seconds, finds the crack, and decides to walk through it? Whitney begins to write. Fast. Clean. No hesitation. Her handwriting is small and tight, the way you write when you've spent 10 years writing in supply closet folders by yourself. But it's perfectly legible, and it's perfectly aligned, and the marks she's making on the board are not the marks of someone improvising. They are the marks of someone executing a plan she's already finished in her head. She rewrites the integrand using a polar transformation. Henrik Sandberg leans forward so far he's almost out of his chair. He whispers, She's going to use symmetry. She's going to use symmetry. Ashford steps in. Hold on, Miss Brooks. That substitution doesn't preserve the boundary. He's right, technically, by his definition. The room tenses. The stopwatch reads 1:08. Whitney pauses the marker. She turns her head just slightly. It does, she says, if you accept that the boundary I'm preserving isn't yours. Yours assumed continuity at 0. Mine doesn't have to. She underlines a tiny notation in the corner of the board, 3 small marks, almost invisible from the audience. Henrik Sandberg sees them. He writes a single word in his notebook in capital letters. O-H. 3 faculty members in the front row stand up involuntarily. Ashford walks to the panel table where Eleanor Vance is sitting. He's done laughing. He's done with the marriage joke. His voice drops. Professor Vance, he says, I'd like the chair to formally verify any claim made on this board. I want this rigorous. We're being live streamed. I will not have my work overturned by a stunt. This is his trap. It's a smart one. He's assuming Eleanor Vance, Princeton chair, distinguished mathematician, credentialed, will side with the institution, with him. Eleanor Vance stands up. She walks past Ashford without looking at him. She walks to the board. She studies what Whitney has written. She studies it for a full 5 seconds. Then she turns to the room and speaks. For the record, her voice carries. Ms. Brooks is correct about line 3. I would have caught it myself in a referee report, and I'm embarrassed I didn't catch it on the slide. I'm verifying, in real time, in front of this room and this camera. The clock continues to run. Ms. Brooks, you have 91 seconds remaining. She returns to her seat. The room exhales again, louder this time. The pressure has just doubled, and so has the legitimacy. Whitney is no longer a janitor making creative observations. She is a person whose math has just been formally endorsed by a Princeton chair on a live broadcast. In his dorm room 4 miles away in Brookline, Whitney's brother Teddy has been studying for a midterm. His phone is buzzing. 3 friends have sent him the live stream link with the same message. "Bro, is this your sister?" He opens the link. He sees his sister on a stage. She is holding a marker. She is not the woman who packs his lunch. She is not the woman who works night shifts. She is not the woman who has, for 10 years, refused to talk about herself. She is a stranger, and she is brilliant, and the room behind her is on fire with attention. Teddy slides off his bed and onto the floor and starts to cry. Up on the stage, Whitney lifts the marker again. The stopwatch reads 1:31. She introduces a contour deformation. She draws a small loop in the complex plane next to the equation and labels it gamma. It's a standard move, exactly as she said. Anyone who's taken a graduate course in complex analysis would recognize it. But the placement of the loop, the way she's chosen to deform it, opens up a hidden symmetry in Ashford's integral that no one in the room, including Ashford, has ever seen before. The grad students in the front row are now actively gasping, audibly. One of them, a thin kid in a crooked tie, says out loud to no one, "That's beautiful." In row 3, Audrey Whitfield is no longer writing. She's staring at the board with her mouth slightly open. She lifts her phone very carefully and starts recording. The live stream comment counter clicks to 8,300. Ashford has not sat down. He's standing near the side of the stage, watching. His hands are by his sides. His stopwatch hangs forgotten from his fingers. The arrogance is still on his face, but it's now a mask. And underneath, you can see him doing the math with her, line by line, and you can see the moment his stomach drops, because he's just realized she might actually finish. Whitney does not look at him. The clock reads 1:14. Her marker has not slowed down once. What happens to a man who builds his entire career on a problem being unsolvable the moment he realizes it isn't? The next 45 seconds are the longest 45 seconds Jeffrey Ashford has ever lived through. Whitney is in flow now. The marker is moving, the equations are unfolding, and the room is locked onto her like a single organism holding its breath. She invokes a single residue. She circles one term and writes its value next to it. A clean fraction, no irrational mess. The integral on the board is starting to collapse. You can see it collapse. Even if you're a viewer at home with no math background watching the live stream from a kitchen table in Cleveland, you can see it happen. The expression that filled 12 feet of screen at the start of this lecture is shrinking, line by line, into something small and elegant. The stopwatch reads 1 minute. Ashford steps forward. He has to interrupt. He has to slow her down. He has to do something. "Ms. Brooks," he says, loud, sharper than he meant. Even with the symmetry, the residual term is non-trivial. You don't have time. Whitney does not turn around. "I have time." The room cracks open with a small, involuntary laugh. Not at her, with her. It's the laugh of 180 people watching a bully get answered in 3 words. Ashford's neck flushes red. He glances at the back wall. The live stream comment counter is climbing in real time. He can see it. 12,400, 14,000, 17,200. The count is doubling every 30 seconds. His face is on every one of those screens. Henrik Sandberg, his own grad student, has set his notebook down and is openly watching with both hands at his temples. The stopwatch reads 0:42. Whitney rewrites the next line. 3 faculty members in the front row stand up again. Eleanor Vance has not blinked in 2 minutes. Ashford tries one more time. He pulls out a different weapon: sarcasm. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to remind everyone that correctness is not the same as rigor. This is a performance, a very entertaining performance. But when this is over, I'd ask all of you. Professor Ashford! Whitney's voice cuts him off. She still has not turned around. You're using my time. The room is now openly tense, phones up everywhere. A young undergrad in the back has started crying, not from sadness, from something she doesn't have words for yet. Audrey Whitfield is still recording. Her free hand is gripping the edge of her seat. The stopwatch reads 0:32. Whitney spots the symmetry. The one Ashford never saw in 9 years. She draws a small triangle in the corner of the board to flag it. 3 more people stand up. Henrik Sandberg writes one line in his notebook in his shakiest handwriting. The line reads, "I'm watching a paper get written in real time." In the audience, an elderly mathematician in the 3rd row, emeritus, retired 10 years ago, came to the colloquium today only because his wife dragged him out, has taken off his hearing aid. He is not turning it off. He is taking it out so he can hold his head in both hands and not be distracted by anything but what is on the board. A young woman 2 rows behind him has pulled out a small notebook and is copying Whitney's work down line by line. She will keep this notebook for the rest of her life. In 9 years, she will publish a paper that builds on this proof, and in the acknowledgments, she will write, "To the woman who taught me what mathematics looks like when nobody has permission to silence it." The live stream comment counter clicks past 25,000. The Harvard Math Department's YouTube channel has, in the last 6 minutes, gained more new subscribers than it has gained in the previous 6 years. The stopwatch reads 0:20. In Brookline, Teddy is on the floor of his dorm room. He has called their grandmother in Atlanta. He's holding the phone up to his laptop screen so she can hear and see. Their grandmother is whispering over and over, "Lord, Lord, Lord." The stopwatch reads 0:14. Whitney lifts her marker for the next to last line, and she stops. She lowers the marker. She turns around. The whole room sees her face. It is calm. It is not afraid. But it is angry now. For the first time in this lecture, there is genuine anger in it. She turns to Ashford. "You changed the problem." The room rustles. Confused murmurs. Ashford's face goes blank for half a second. I don't know what you mean, Miss Brooks. The slide is the slide. We've been looking at it for..." Whitney walks past him. She walks to the side of the stage where the projector laptop sits open on a podium. She does not touch it. "Henrik," she says. Henrik Sandberg looks up like a man called by name in a courtroom. "Pull up the version of this integral from his 2018 paper, the published version, the one in the public record." Henrik freezes. "Henrik," Eleanor Vance says from the panel. Her voice is very quiet. "Pull it up." Henrik types, hands shaking. The 2018 version of the Ashford boundary appears on the screen, side by side with the version Ashford has been lecturing on this morning. They are not the same equation. A constraint has been added to the version on stage, a small one, a bound on the imaginary axis. It does not appear in the published 2018 paper. It was added, at most, hours ago, to make the integral harder to solve. The room realizes what it's looking at. The realization moves through the audience like a wave. People physically lean back in their seats. Audrey Whitfield's mouth drops fully open. Henrik Sandberg stares at the laptop like he's looking at evidence of a crime. Eleanor Vance stands up, slowly. "Jeffrey," she says. She doesn't have to finish the sentence. The stopwatch on the podium is still running. It clicks to 0:08. Whitney walks back to the center of the stage. She does not raise her voice. She does not point at Ashford. She speaks to Eleanor Vance. "Professor Vance, with your permission, Restart the clock on the original equation. The published one. The 2018 version. She pauses. 8 seconds is plenty. The room makes a sound. It's not a gasp, it's deeper than a gasp. It's the sound of 180 people understanding simultaneously what they have just been allowed to witness. Eleanor Vance walks to the podium. She stops the stopwatch. She picks up the marker. She walks to the screen. She erases the unauthorized constraint with a single stroke. She turns to the room and says formally, "The bet stands. Original equation, 2 full minutes. From now." She presses the stopwatch. The number resets to 2 minutes and starts ticking down. Whitney lifts her marker. Ashford has not moved. He is standing in the middle of his own life, watching it slip through his hands, and he does not know what to do with his face. The stopwatch reads 1:58. Whitney begins to write again. What does it sound like? A room full of people deciding all at once that they're on the side of a janitor? But Ashford is not done. He is cornered, and cornered men reach for cruelty. He walks fast to the panel table. He grabs a folder off the table, his folder, full of notes on her, prepared by someone in admin who pulled records he had no right to. He turns to the room. The stopwatch is at 1:48. "Ladies and gentlemen," he says, voice loud, voice shaking, "before we get carried away, let me put something on the record. This woman," he holds up the folder, "is not a mystery genius. Her name is Whitney Brooks. MIT. Mathematics, 2013 to 2016. Withdrew at 20. No degree, no publications. Custodial staff for 10 years. He turns to her. The cruelty in his voice is now naked. "I'm sure your life took the turns it had to, Miss Brooks. But let's not pretend this is a Cinderella story. Look at her, ladies and gentlemen. Look at her. And then look at me. And tell me with a straight face that this is the woman you'd have me marry." The room reacts. 2 people stand up to leave. A woman in row 5 says, "Excuse me," loud enough to be heard. Audrey Whitfield is no longer recording. She has set her phone down, and her hand is over her mouth. Eleanor Vance stands up so fast her chair scrapes, but Whitney lifts her hand. Eleanor sees it. Eleanor sits back down. Whitney does not cry. She does not even look surprised. She looks at Ashford for a long second. And then she does something nobody expects. She smiles. Small, tired, almost grateful. Because in that moment she understands 2 things at once. 1, the man in front of her is afraid. 2, she does not have to be polite to him anymore. She walks back to the board. The stopwatch reads 1:39. She turns to the room and speaks calmly, for the first time directly to the camera. "Professor Ashford has just told you why I left MIT. He didn't tell you the rest. My mother had stage 4 ovarian cancer. My brother was 12. I was 20. I was the only person who could do both jobs." She pauses. "I'd do it again." She turns back to the board. "Now I'm going to finish his integral." The stopwatch reads 1:32. What does it cost a person to keep their dignity in a room that just tried to take it from them? And what does it cost the man who tried? For a moment the room is dead silent, the kind of silent that is heavier than noise. Whitney stands at the board. The marker is in her hand. Her shoulders are square. From the outside she looks fine, but her whole body is doing one thing right now, and it's holding still. Because Ashford was right about one thing. He held up a folder, and inside that folder was the truth. She withdrew. She didn't finish. She lost 10 years. She has, by every metric the world keeps, failed. And the worst part is, until 2 hours ago, she had almost made peace with it. She had told herself a story. The story went, I traded my career for two people I love. I would do it again. The math will live in the supply closet folder. It doesn't have to live in the world. And then this man, this stranger, had walked into her quiet life and said, "Prove yourself. Prove yourself in 2 minutes, or be a janitor forever." And she had let him. She had walked up here. She had picked up the marker. She had wanted for the first time in 10 years to be seen. And now he had pulled out a folder, and the room had seen, and her dignity was on a live stream feed in front of the world. She closes her eyes for 2 seconds. The stopwatch ticks. 1:30, 1:29. 2 rows back from the panel table, a woman she's never spoken to does something small and important. Eleanor Vance stands up, takes off her own jacket, and walks to the empty chair beside the podium. She lays the jacket carefully across the back of the chair. The Princeton seal on the inside of the lapel is visible to the entire room. Then Eleanor walks down the steps and sits in the audience, in the front row. Like a student, the message is silent and unmistakable. That seat is yours. The board is yours. Finish. Whitney opens her eyes. She sees the jacket. She sees Eleanor in the front row. She sees, behind Eleanor, the young black undergraduate from earlier, still standing, still watching her with her hands at her mouth. In Brookline, Teddy is on his floor, his grandmother on speakerphone, and he is whispering, "Get up, Whit. Get up, get up, get up." In Atlanta, Whitney's grandmother, 82 years old, knees bad, still on speakerphone with Teddy, pulls herself up out of her armchair and walks to the small wooden table in her hallway. On that table is a framed photograph of Whitney's mother, taken the year before she died. The grandmother turns the frame so it faces the television, so her daughter, wherever she is, can see her granddaughter on the screen. In a break room at a hospital in Cleveland, a nurse named Dolores has stopped charting. She is watching the live stream on her phone. She is 46 years old. She has, 3 different times in her life, been told by a man with more credentials than her that she didn't understand something she did, in fact, understand. She is not crying. She is waiting, the way a person waits for a verdict they need. Whitney lifts her chin. She does not turn to Ashford. She does not give him the satisfaction. She turns to the camera, to her brother, to every black girl in the country who that morning was watching this on a phone propped against a cereal box. "My name is Whitney Brooks," she says. Her voice is even. "I left MIT in 2016 because my mother was dying, and somebody had to raise my brother. I have been working as a janitor at this university for 10 years. In those 10 years, I have written 6 papers in a folder I keep on the bottom shelf of my cleaning cart. I have never shown them to anyone. I was never going to." She glances at Eleanor's jacket on the chair. "I'm going to finish the integral. Not because of the bet, not because of him, because Professor Vance asked me to." She turns back to the board. The stopwatch reads 1:22. She lifts the marker. And this is the moment something cracks open in you. Because this is not a woman about to win a math problem. This is a woman about to forgive herself, in public, for 10 years of being invisible. What does it look like, the exact second a person stops apologizing for their own life? Whitney begins to write. The stopwatch reads 1:22, then 1:18, then 1:14, and the marker does not stop. Move 1. She rewrites the integrand using the polar transformation she demonstrated before. Clean, fast, no hesitation. She is not improvising. She has done this proof in her supply closet, on the back of inventory requisitions, more times than she can count. The room recognizes the move. 3 faculty in the front row mouth, "Yes." Move 2. She introduces the contour deformation. She draws gamma, the small loop in the complex plane, in the same spot as before. Henrik Sandberg has stopped breathing. The grad students in row 2 have linked arms. The stopwatch reads 1 minute. Move 3. The hidden symmetry. She circles it, she labels it, she draws the small triangle. The room makes a sound that is half a gasp and half a laugh. Audrey Whitfield is openly crying in row 3, recording with one hand. Move 4. She invokes a single residue. She writes its value. The expression on the screen, the 12-foot expression that has terrified graduate students for 9 years, visibly collapses. It folds in on itself, line by line, like a paper crane being unfolded. The stopwatch reads 0:42. Move 5. She underlines the closed form. It fits on one line. The stopwatch reads 0:18. She caps the marker. She turns around. The room does not move for 4 full seconds. 4 seconds of silence, so complete you can hear the projector fan. Then a single graduate student in the back claps once. And then Henrik Sandberg starts clapping. And then the entire row stands up clapping. And then the row behind them stands up. And then the whole hall is on its feet. And the noise is loud enough that the camera microphone on the live stream actually distorts. Eleanor Vance does not clap. She is staring at the board, lips parted, eyes moving line by line, doing the math herself. Whitney does not smile. She does not bow. She turns toward Ashford. Ashford has not moved from where he was standing. His marker is on the floor. His stopwatch is hanging from his fingers. He looks like a man who has just watched his own house burn down from across the street. Whitney walks toward him, slowly. The room quiets. The cameras swing. She stops 3 feet away from him. She does not raise her voice. The microphone on her uniform, clipped on for the live stream, picks up every word. "Professor Ashford," she says, "I want to say 3 things." The room is absolutely silent. First, you spent 30 years trying to prove this couldn't be done. She tilts her head. You should have spent 30 seconds checking whether it was the right equation. Ashford's jaw moves, but no words come out. Second, she nods toward the board. Your boundary isn't intractable. It's just been asked the wrong question by the wrong person for 9 years. A soft, involuntary, "Oh," rolls through the audience. Audrey Whitfield writes both lines down, word for word. Whitney takes 1 step closer. Third, her voice drops, but everyone can still hear her. About the marriage bet. I'm not going to hold you to it. Ashford looks up, blinking. For a half second, hope crosses his face. The hope of a man who thinks he's just been spared. Whitney closes that hope down. Not because I lost. I didn't lose. Because I don't marry men I don't respect. She pauses. The pause is exact. And Professor, judging by how long you've been alone, I think you already know that's a list longer than mine. The room makes a sound that is not laughter and not a gasp. It is the sound 180 people make when they witness a man being told the truth about himself in public. A long beat. 3 full seconds where nobody breathes. Audrey Whitfield in row 3 writes the line down word for word and then sets her pen on top of it like a paperweight, like she's afraid the words will float away if she doesn't hold them down. In the front row, Eleanor Vance is sitting very straight. Her hands are folded in her lap. Her chin is tilted up. The expression on her face is not satisfaction. It is something older and quieter. It is the expression of a woman who has waited a very long time to watch someone do the things she was never allowed to do. The young black undergraduate from earlier has now moved all the way to the front row. She is sitting on the floor between the seats, knees pulled to her chest, watching Whitney like she's watching a door she didn't know existed swing open. Ashford does not respond. He cannot. His eyes go down, his shoulders go down. He looks, for the first time all morning, his actual age. 35, alone, and very small. Whitney turns away from them. She walks back to the board. She picks up the eraser, and she does the most elegant thing she could possibly do. She does not erase her own work. She erases his. The lines above her correction, the wrong derivation he spent 9 years defending, she wipes them clean in 2 long strokes, leaving only her own work behind. Then she sets the eraser down and walks off the stage. Eleanor Vance stands up. The whole room is still on its feet. She walks to the board. She places her hand flat against the closed form just above where Whitney's signature would go if she had signed it. Eleanor turns to the room. Her voice is controlled, but there is something burning under it. "For the record," she says, "I will be referring this proof to the Annals of Mathematics this afternoon. I will be requesting expedited review. Ms. Brooks, if you'll permit me, will be listed as sole author." The room erupts again. Whitney is already at the side aisle. She does not stop. She does not turn. She walks past her cart, past the yellow mop bucket, past the duct-taped textbook, and she keeps walking, out of Hall G, into the corridor, into the rest of her life. In Brookline, Teddy is screaming at a laptop. In Cleveland, in Atlanta, in Houston, in Oakland, in living rooms and break rooms and hospital waiting rooms, hundreds of thousands of people are watching the same moment on the same live stream and feeling the same thing. They are feeling seen. What is it worth, the exact second a person who was never supposed to be visible decides to walk away on her own terms? Whitney does not get out of the building. She makes it to the foyer. She is halfway to the door when she hears footsteps behind her. Fast, almost running. She turns. It is Henrik Sandberg. He is holding a folder. He stops 3 feet away from her. He's out of breath. His face is wet. He holds up the folder like an offering. "Miss Brooks," he says. Whitney looks at the folder. It is her folder. The one labeled Inventory Q3 in pencil. The one she keeps under the bottom shelf of her cart in the supply closet on the 3rd floor. "I found it 6 months ago," Henrik says. His voice is shaking. "Cleaning out the closet for a fire inspection. I read it." He swallows. "All of it. I went back to that closet every week for 6 months. I read every page you added. I knew. And I didn't say anything." He's crying openly now. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I should have told someone. I should have told you." Whitney does not speak for a long moment. She takes the folder. She opens it. Inside are 92 pages, her own handwriting. 6 full proofs across complex analysis, 3 of which resolve open problems Jeffrey Ashford himself has cited in his last decade of work. Audrey Whitfield catches up to them in the corridor. She's been running. She has heard the last part. "Ms. Brooks," Audrey says, "I'm filing tonight. Front page. Above the fold. With your permission." Whitney looks at her, then at Henrik, then at the folder in her hands. She nods. Once. The next morning, the Boston Globe runs the headline, "Janitor at Harvard quietly solved 6 open problems in complex analysis. The math department never asked her name." Within 72 hours, the story is in every major paper in the country. Within a week, Eleanor Vance has formally invited Whitney to a visiting fellowship at the Institute for Advanced Study in Princeton. Within a month, Jeffrey Ashford has signed a public statement posted on the Harvard Math Department's homepage acknowledging the validity of Whitney's proof, the alteration of the original equation, and his own conduct. He signs it. He does not appear in person. How many other folders are tucked under how many other carts in how many other supply closets in this country? 6 months later, a small lecture hall at the Institute for Advanced Study in Princeton, New Jersey. Whitney Brooks stands at the board. She is wearing the same kind of plain, gentle clothes she has always worn. Her hair is in the same plain bun. Her glasses are the same old ones. The white tape is gone, but the frame is the same because she liked the frame. She has not changed to deserve to be here. She was always allowed to be here. She just had to walk through the door. In the front row, 3 black women are sitting with notebooks open. In the second row are 2 more graduate students, both women. In the back row, in a brand new Northeastern hoodie, is her brother Teddy. He is driven down from Boston for her first lecture. Jeffrey Ashford is not there. He is on a leave of absence. He has written exactly 1 short letter to Eleanor Vance, which Eleanor has never made public. The letter contains 1 sentence. I was wrong about the problem, and I was wrong about her, and I am only equipped to apologize for one of them. Whitney does not read the letter. She tucks it into the back of her notebook and never speaks of it. There is one thing she does keep, though. In the top drawer of her new desk at the Institute for Advanced Study, in a small frame she bought at a thrift store in Princeton for $4, is a single yellow napkin. The handwriting on it is not hers. The derivation is not finished. Line 3 is crossed out and rewritten in the same wrong way it was crossed out and rewritten the first time. She keeps it because it reminds her of 2 things at once: that somebody else gave up on a problem and that she didn't. She turns to the lecture hall. She lifts a marker. She writes 1 word on the board. Hello. Then she turns to her students. She smiles. Really smiles. The first time the camera has caught it. Good morning, she says. Before we begin the lecture, let's go around the room. I'd like to know your names, starting with you. She points, not at the brightest student, not at the one with the best posture, but at the quiet young woman in the back who looks startled to be seen. You first. The young woman opens her mouth. The camera holds on her face. Leave 1 word in the comments. Seen. Share this with someone who's still waiting to be. And subscribe, because next week, I'm telling you the story of the woman who walked into Jeffrey Ashford's old office, sat down at his desk, and changed the locks. You already know her name.
Hey, it's me. Before you scroll away, can I sit with you for just a minute? Because the part of Whitney's story that gets me, it isn't the equation. It isn't even the moment she walked up that stage. It's the napkin in the trash can. She'd been carrying that thing in her pocket for 6 months. 6 months of being walked through like furniture. 6 months of mopping floors for a man who never asked her name. I keep thinking, how many people right now are carrying their version of that napkin? A folder under a cleaning cart, a notebook in a bedside drawer, a talent they stop saying out loud because the words stop acting. That's the part that's hurts, not the loud kind of injustice, the quiet kind. So I want to ask you something, and I want you to actually answer it, not just keep watching. What is on line 3? The thing you've been quietly correct about, the thing nobody's asked you about, the thing you keep fouled up because the room hasn't earned it yet. Whitney waited 10 years for someone to hand her a marker. Don't wait that long. The room doesn't have to earn it. You do. If this story moved you, leave 1 word in the comments. Sing. That's it. Just sing. I read every single one. Share this with someone who's still waiting to be. And subscribe, because next week I'm telling you about the woman who took your phrase as first office. You already know her name. I will see you Friday.